What's up, everybody? Today's video is with NateAlex. It was a really good chat. I hope it gives you guys some perspective into somebody who's been around from before 2021, has been through some of the ups and downs. He gives a lot of really good information regarding kind of how to think and approach not only like minting and projects, but creating, jumping into the space. And it's a lot of fun chatting with him. He's such a cool dude. I hope you guys enjoy the video. Like, subscribe, follow, comment, whatever you do, I really appreciate, and I love the support. I'll catch you guys on the next one. What's up, everybody? Hunter here. Today we are joined with NateAlex, who is quite possibly the definition of OG in the NFT space. He has been around since 2017 and has been involved with numerous projects. He wears the hat of many different positions, such as creator, investor, collector. He currently works as a co-founder at NFT 42 alongside Jimmy. He is also very involved with a lot of the current projects that are very large on OpenSea right now, such as VFriends, since that is a nameless product, which is under NFT 42. Really excited to have him here today, get to know a lot more about him, what he's all about, and what his journey has been like in the space. So happy to have you here, Nate. Excited to jump into it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on here.
Yeah, so
it's always fun to do this.
My first question for you is, you're like I said, you're an OG. What made you get into NFTs in the first place? And I know you've kind of probably touched on this before, but I think that there's a spark that hits all of us when we make that like first mint, and we go from, oh, this is interesting, to like, holy shit, like I'm gonna do this for the next, like the rest of my life kind of thing. Like, walk me through that experience for you.
Yeah, so usually I say that it's sort of like the money and like all the articles and shit that kind of interested me and brought me in. But the way that you just said it, I've never really touched on that angle, and that is actually a big part of it. So I guess like the too long didn't read, thing would be, I just saw some articles. I saw a way to make some extra money. I didn't really know anything about crypto. I mean, I had invested in Bitcoin and Ether at the time, but I saw NFTs as a way to maybe make a little extra money. But really, I had that sort of oh shit moment whenever, so like back in 2018, CryptoKitties was like the only NFT. Nobody knew how to code Solidity. So you didn't really have, I mean, there were like hot potatoes and other sort of like shit tier NFT projects.
Right.
But, I remember selling an NFT. It was one weekend. I bred some cats, and I hit some like kind of rare-ish ones or whatever. And I sold like 1 Ether worth of them, which at the time was almost $1,000. And it just, it's like just this, oh shit, like this could like replace my income. Like,
Right.
I mean, like it just became this sort of, maybe there's something bigger here. And maybe, because what started happening around that time too is teams were forming, and like people were strategizing the best they could to get the best edge they could. I had a friend at my old job, and we would play CryptoKitties together sometimes, and we would like send cats back and forth. And then it became for me more like international, and like it's just is really crazy to see this sort of new economy like pop up. And in my mind, it felt a little bit like what I imagine early eBay sellers probably felt. Like people said, oh, that's stupid, dude. You can't, like, why would they buy from you online? They just go to the store without really seeing the bigger picture. And the same thing, I think, with this digital economy. Why are you buying digital art when you can buy it, real art or whatever? And I just kind of saw a little bit beyond that. And I think that anybody who has ever sold an NFT probably feels kind of the same way, like, holy shit, this is the beginning of something big.
Right. It's not like, and I always get into this with people when I talk about like eBay and like the other sell platforms, where you don't have to go and buy a label. You don't have to like package it. There is no, it's like, if somebody buys it, it's done, instantaneously over. There's no extra effort. So yeah, I totally get where you're coming from there. I guess within that journey though, like, did you ever have any doubts, or like you were in it and you're like ready to go, or like did you sit back at one moment, you're like, dude, I'm selling digital cats online, what, like, or you like talk to your friends, like, the fuck is wrong with Nate, like?
Yeah, I think that I went through, because it didn't really it didn't resonate with real world friends and stuff very well. And, crypto in 2018 pretty much only went down like the whole fucking year. Like it was
Right,
just, it was a tough year, and it made it even harder because like in my mind, I coped by, oh, well, one ether is still equal to $1,000. Like that was mentally this thing that I had in my head, which
right,
wasn't true by the end of the year. But yeah, I think it resonated with people less and less as the further into that sort of bear market we got. Um, nobody was interested in crypto, so even less so of like trading cartoon cats. And it just there were definitely, it tested, my crypto faith there a little bit. And that's
right.
why, I've been more cautious, I think, publicly than a lot of, say, some of the other NFT influencers who seem to, think up forever. And maybe it will, but like I have been through it the other side. I know what it looks like when shit is tough, and I know that a lot of people who are in this space now, even some that I think are fairly popular in the space, would probably be weeded out if it were to get really tough. And whether you have to make your own decisions in the space to determine whether you're going to hold this shit till it goes to 1 million in ether, or if you'll hold it if it goes down to $500. Like, that's all. Everybody needs to make their own decisions there. But um I guess what I want, or when I share that sort of like my sort of takes on this stuff, I think that people should at least be aware that it is a possibility, and you need to be prepared for sort of that that longer term playing, if you have to. I mean, it obviously it recovered the way that I made quite a lot of money in this, turnaround. And, now in the real world, people just think like, oh shit, you, like, real world friends just think it's insane. They don't really still don't understand. So it's still like this
It's
weird.
not, it wasn't all just up only and zero risk, and it's all flowers and butterflies. There's definitely some nights I'm sure you were like, oh god, like what have I gotten into, and like
Yeah.
stress and all of that.
It was a hard few years. I mean, there was a decent run in 2019, relative to the bottom where ether ran to like $350 in the summer, and it felt like, okay, things are turning around, and then it just went right back down to fucking $100 again. And it's tough. It mentally was tough. It was exhausting. I was
Was it like,
working.
did you have like emotional times, like you just like, I don't know, I talked to some people and they're like, yeah, like I broke down, like I got like sad and like depressed, and like, are you just like mentally tough like that? I don't know, I'm just curious.
No, I mean, it was tough. I would say really the only time that I really kind of got broken was March 12, 2020, when, man, shit just lost like 55 or 60% in a day. And like I was gearing up to quit my job at the time, my real world job or whatever. And I had like some money saved away, and I was like, all right, I'm good. So I got some runway, not a shitload, but like enough. And then, to lose 60% of my portfolio in a day, it was just soul crushing. Like, what the fuck am I doing? I'm about to take this big leap of faith, and I just lost half of my money in a day. Like, holy shit. And, I'm glad I still went forward with it, and, jumped on the ship with Jim. And, I mean, I got really lucky really with timing on that. Like, March 20th or March 2020 is like the best time to probably jump in this space in terms
Right,
of up only. Like, holy shit, it's been insane since then.
right. Did you, like, when you were younger before 2017, were you like a tech person, like, you know, coding and like into technology, or you just happened to wander into crypto?
Yeah, I was. I was an engineer before. So I wasn't like a software engineer or anything like that, but I had a little bit of coding
What kind of engineer?
exposure. It's controls engineer, which
Controls.
is like automation. But I did like electrical design and some project engineering stuff. So it translated in the sense that like I was able to see a project from start to finish. And we see a lot of like projects coming out now, and people say, oh, that's the easiest million because they just hire some Fiverr artists. And like, and I think that too a little bit, but I also know how hard it is to actually really execute a project. If it was so easy, then all the people saying that would, be
We'll
doing
be
it
doing
too.
it.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I had some technical background. I mean, I wasn't like an expert. I mean, I'm still not an expert coder by any means. I'm like a fucking mad scientist, experimenter, if anything. But um, yeah, I think that I had probably a better background for it than maybe your average person would. But there's definitely people who would have a better background and be able to ease in, better than I did.
That's so cool. And now you're at NFT 42, which is like, top tier. Like when people think of the NFT space and like companies to work for, NFT 42 is usually the first one that I hear out of a lot of people's mouths. There's Nameless, you guys have a bunch of different projects or products under that umbrella. What do you do? Maybe you can explain a little bit more what you do at NFT 42, because it's a little bit of a mystery to me, not gonna lie.
It's a mystery to all of us. I mean, so last year, really where I want to get with NFT 42, I'll preface it by saying this first. Like I have like where I'm trying to get there with this, and that would be to be more on like experimental, like pushing the envelope forward and innovative ways. So like we're seeing a whole shitload of projects now that are making some money. And for us, like, I don't want to say like money isn't an issue, but we have some runway. We've got, some we have a war chest. So we're not like looking to, hey, let's do a quick hitter $1 million project or whatever. Like we've but like what I want to get to is like pushing the space forward again, which is something that we did really more behind the scenes, I think, because a lot of people who are in this space now weren't around when we started like on-chain thing, pushing royalties that were automatic, pushing licensing, which still hasn't really been realized. But there's like a whole bunch of things that we're like, I hate the term thought leaders, but maybe like we've been trying to like get our ideas of, hey, this is what we think the space needs for the last after being here for a few years and seeing what's missing. Like these are things that we want to see.
Right.
So that's where I'm trying to go. Right now, I'm sort of in a weird space where, I did some development for the company last year. I did like Avastar's replicant token. I did the InfinFT platform and the coordination with those artists, the alpha launch stuff that we did in like April. But we're like as far as like coding stuff, I'm not doing a whole lot of coding right now. I'm trying to figure out what we need to kind of do to get back on this experimental, like because in my opinion that's like it's just really important to the space. Like I don't think that pushing the same stuff out over and over and over again really gets anybody anywhere. So
right, you guys want to make that like technological leap, introduce a new way of looking at what an NFT is, I guess, is what you're getting at.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so were you involved at all with VeeFriends?
So I was involved, with some of the like ideation in the beginning. I wrote some contracts for it really early on, and we were trying to define like what the what the nameless platform was going to look like. It was infinity tokens at the time, and we had like some contracts, and they were creating other contracts, and they had some pieces to them that we liked and some pieces that we hated. And what happened was during sort of like figuring out the project, we realized it was going to cost like $2 million at the gas level for Gary to like mint all his tokens. And I was just like, this doesn't make sense. Like, I mean, really, like think about it from Gary's perspective. He's not going to fucking pay somebody 2 million.
Did you tell him that?
Yeah.
What'd he say?
He actually was he was more receptive to it than I expected him to be. But really my takeaway from it, and this was, I think I had flown down to Texas to meet up with Jim and some of the rest of the team. And, I was just like, I don't see how this is really like sustainable for us going forward. Like I can't expect too many people to say, oh, 2 million, but and just like take it on the chin.
Right.
Like we got to figure something else out. And that was where Bart had really kind of taken over, and he sort of shaped it into a way that was a lot more feasible than kind of what I had there. So I was involved in like the early stages of that. And um, maybe got phased out a little bit because maybe that sounds negative, but it was more of a strategic, like, okay, this is the direction we're going in. And then, Gary, he had his own guys doing front end stuff. So I didn't really need to do any work on that part of it.
Right. Yeah, I know there were some stressful posts from Gary's side of things. I know there were a lot of sleepless nights for like Andy and certainly on your side too, it sounds like. So
Yeah, it was pretty hectic, I guess. We wrap things up in a timely fashion and hit that 5-5 date, which we didn't. And I think, and I've been around projects for so long and engineering projects that I've seen play out a bunch of times. And I've actually always been pretty good with hitting project deadlines, but with like such a new technology, with just the kind of shit that you run into here is it can be totally unexpected. And one thing that you can be like, all right, we're 99.9% done. And that last one thing that you think is going to take 15 minutes takes 3 weeks or something. It's just stupid shit like that. You can never really predict.
Yeah, that's crazy. Did you end up buying any VFriends?
Yeah, I bought one of the, I don't really know what to call them. And I hate, well, hate is strong word, but I don't like that it's not really spelled out too well on like in the metadata, but there are like they're 100% unique one of ones, and then there's others that are called one of ones, like the spectaculars and shit.
Right.
But I bought one of the unique one of ones, just one of the access tokens. But it was I waited until it hit the 10 ether floor and just bought it because I kind of thought, like, what I see in NFTs a lot of times is the highest end stuff is what kind of goes the most parabolic, like aliens and crypto punks or gold apes. It's usually like the top, like, recognizable thing. So that's sort of what my play there was anyways.
Yeah, no, I followed the same kind of path there. I didn't think that way. Maybe hindsight is 2020 in this way, but I did buy a spectacular and kind of same thought process there. If you don't mind me asking which one you bought, I'm curious.
It is, so I wanted to buy the chicken and it actually sold. And now the one that I have, I don't know why I'm having trouble remember which one it is right now. One second. Holy shit. I don't know how.
Only spent probably 40 grand on it.
Yeah, it's only 40,000. Oh, it's the Basset Hound. It's the bubble hockey Basset
Oh, that's
Hound.
a great one. Yeah, that's so funny.
Yeah, because I had wanted the chicken, and it was, I think those were like the last two left, and I was like, I'm gonna pull probably the trigger on the chicken, and then it sold, and I was like, well, fuck, now there's only one of these, one of ones, official one of ones or whatever you want to call them left. So I went ahead and bought that one before it was sold. I think the right play, and this was my other strategy, I just whiffed on it, was really just to buy the cheapest ones sort of in the middle of the auction. I've seen that play out in Dutch auctions a few times, and usually in about the late middle of the project is where they sort of bottom out.
Right.
And then it sort of accelerates into the end. So it's usually an easy markup. And, I mean, I don't know what the floor price on Gary V's tokens are now, but I mean, I would have
4.3.
Oh my God. That's
yeah,
crazy. Dude, I know. So like, I wanted really bad to like, all right, I'm going to buy, 10 or 20 at the bottom, floor price, and then I'll just sort of ride the wave up. But yeah, I really haven't played the last few months very well. I mean, I've not done so well.
Yeah, so 10 Ethereum on the floor would be worth 80 right now.
Fuck's sake. Fuck. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And mine's, I got it listed at 69 and, no bites yet, but.
No bites yet. Yeah, there was a goo that sold on Monday or Sunday. I can't remember when, for 70.
I know, I saw that. And when it happened, I thought, what the fuck? Mine is a better deal than that.
It's not a goo, though. That's the big thing. It needs to be a goo.
I know. That's what we're seeing now. The goo is crazy. Man. This space is, it's very unpredictable. There's, speaking of that, like the bet, it was really more of a variable bet. Me and Pranksy board the dog bet. Did you see that one?
No, I didn't see that one. You gotta fill me in on that.
So on Twitter, I think Carlini had asked if the me bits floor would be higher than the dog floor. Oh. And I had came out and not like trying to like, I think I said something like, I think it's a cool initiative. I expect me to be higher and I'd be willing to bet on that. And then I even like tagged Pranked because we just have that sort of relationship.
Right.
And I think I said something like bet like 6 figures or something like stupid flex. And then he like retweeted it and said that he wanted to do it. And, and then, immediately I was underwater, like, the dogs were running like 2x the price, but it had a time frame on it. So now I'm looking a little more stable. But I also, I talked to Frank behind the scenes, and I just think like either of us can manipulate the market to win on it. So it's not
Right.
really a fair bet, like gentleman's bet. I need to try to talk him into doing something embarrassing on Twitter if he loses, and I'll do the same if I lose. But
I would enjoy that. I think a lot of people would enjoy seeing either one of you do something very embarrassing on Twitter. I think it's a win-win for the whole community.
yeah, I think that this is more positive. Yeah, I mean, because I'd said that, and it was sort of just like spur of the moment, like flex kind of thing. And
Right.
while I think that my sort of analysis or prediction on that will probably be true in the time frame that Carlini had mentioned, just because I think the market dynamics are tough when you have basically an airdrop of NFTs. Like, yeah, people are excited to have them, but some people are going to want, obviously, to take the free money. And I just pictured a lot of people would see apes as being kind of the premier, and then as being like secondary, like, we don't really care that much about those.
Right.
And that's why I kind of expected the floor to have some competition on it. But
makes sense. Yeah, and it's kind of funny to hear you say like, because you're technically you're a whale. Like in my eyes, like I look at you and like you're like, oh, you can move the market like in certain directions. Like when you got started in the space, did you ever imagine like in your wildest dreams you'd be where you are today?
no, really, I didn't at all. I mean, it was whenever I started in the space, Pranked was already kind of a whale. Like he was playing with like 100 ether, I think, at the time, and I had 0.2, or I think I'd built up to like 1 ether by the time I got on Discord and started talking to people. My goal at the time was to get to 100 ether, and when I got there, then my goal was like 1,000, and that just seemed like an impossible goal. And Pranked and I, we sort of had like a behind the scenes race to 1,000 ether, which I won. And a lot of people don't know that, and it sucks.
Just so we're clear, you won that. Like,
yeah, I won that, just in case anybody didn't hear that, or yeah. I mean, and now Prank, he's done way better than I have been the last like several months. He just annihilated on Top Shot. Like, holy shit, he just crushed so good there. He just made excellent play after excellent play. He bought that ape when I was asleep. Like, one of my friends from the UK called me to say, dude, like the ape got listed for 300, like wake up and buy it. But Prank bought it and he flipped it for 500 or 600, I think. So he just has had a lot of huge wins, and he's and on Twitter he's been celebrated for that as well too. So now I just kind of am hiding in the shadow, but I'm gonna try to come back. We'll see.
You'll be back. You'll be back and verified any day now.
Just got to keep shooting, I guess.
Yeah, you can't stop taking shots. Shooters win. You got to shoot your shot. Yeah. No, go ahead.
It is true. Like I see like some people, and I wanted to talk to you when you reached out to me, because you are probably among a handful of small of maybe, I'd say smaller accounts. I mean, you guys still got thousands of followers, but maybe accounts that I haven't known for years is maybe a better way of saying it. But like seeing people that like are interacting, and people are starting to get to know and building up their own like, I mean, that's like the same shit that we did a few years ago. So I expect all that to translate really for anybody who's still doing that. I mean, it sounds cheesy and like, oh, you just got to hustle and shit, but like it really,
I mean, I had 100 followers a month and a half ago. Like now, it just, if you're active in the community, not spewing crap and like, I don't know, like I think back in 2015 when I was involved in the community as like a lurker and like, trading, and obviously I never thought we'd get to this kind of community. It was really easy to know like everybody. Like I knew, people from Brazil, and I knew like what they were up to and what they liked, what they didn't like. And I could log on and instantly know like what everybody was up to. Now it just seems crowded and noisy, and like I can't even imagine, like for an OG like you, what it feels like to see all this craziness happening and being like, all right, well, who's that? Like, seems like they have like good stuff going on, but I don't know who the hell they are. Like,
It, yeah, I mean, it really has become, and there's so many projects that have spun off their own sort of successful arms that it really, has become a little bit more segregated. And I think like back in 2018, like literally, if you were still around in 2018 or in 2019, you knew pretty much everybody in the NFT space. Whether they were like big players, small, you just knew everybody. It was like a small high school or something. And then now it just has gotten, I don't really know how many people I would estimate. I mean, I would still say we're probably only in maybe the 5 digits like range of like active people, but there's sort of like the beginnings of this metaverse where people are spending a shitload of time on Discord just talking to their friends from all over the world. And that's like, I think maybe the pandemic tied into that a little bit, but it's quite a bit different. And I like remember talking to everybody and every DM, and now it just is hopeless. I see an infinite list and I wake up and I think, oh shit, I just don't have the energy to try to,
you have other
talk
stuff
to.
going on. It's like I can't
Yeah,
spend my
I
day just
want
learning who
to.
people are.
I want to. So I've been seeing the thing. There's what the Twitter Spaces. I think that you've talked about it a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that is. Is that like a video, like a
So
video
it's
chat thing?
essentially like Clubhouse. I don't know if you're aware of what
Yeah,
Clubhouse
yeah.
is, but
Okay.
it's Clubhouse, but on Twitter. So you
Oh,
don't have to
cool.
leave the platform. You can minimize it. It's only voices. And it's just way better. I think it's basically the community of anything is what makes a product.
Mhm.
And Spaces being natively on Twitter means that all the crypto people and all the NFT people will just get a notification or they see something pop up and they hop in, and instantaneously you could be just talking about polymorphs and all of a sudden beanies in there and G money and D's, and it just turns into a really just full of alpha.
Cool.
I'm really bullish on Spaces being over the next 2 to 5 months, 6 months period, just being the place. If you want to learn NFTs, that's where you got to go.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That was sort of, I think, what I picked up as what it probably was, but I just hadn't dabbled in it or really dove in. And like I am at risk of becoming a dinosaur if I don't like start participating in that kind of stuff. I've been starting to become a little bit more aware of like, holy shit, like you think that you've like built your portfolio up and built your reputation up, but like you have to continually go or whatever if you're going to stay in that.
Yeah, we gotta get you in a Spaces
Yeah,
at
of
some
course.
point this week.
Yeah, I don't even like, how do you even, I don't even know how to do, we'll have to talk about that after this. I'm interested because I wanted to be interested in Clubhouse. I just hated that it was like a different app that was on my phone. I just didn't like that about it. I just wish that I could just get on my computer.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I mean, Spaces just clears it all up. And it was really cool to see because Jack and Jay-Z had a Spaces on Sunday, I think. And that was like, it's cool because the way they listed is all your most relevant followers are at the top of the Spaces. And then you can see everybody else below that. And there must have been like, I don't know, 500 to 1,000 of the people in there were all like blue check mark verified. And at the top on mine, when I was looking, there's like 30, and it was just all NFT like apes and like punks. It was like such a cool vibe to see like your avatars are the same. You click and like see like what people are talking about. So it's really cool. Yeah, we'll chat about it afterwards.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I
Um,
mean, that's it's just crazy to me. Like there's the space that just changes so fast. If you're like stubborn as shit, then I just think that you just will get left behind. Like you have to be willing to learn and keep up and not get too comfortable, I guess. I mean, and for me, getting left behind you know would suck, but like, I mean, I would survive if that did happen. I'd figure another way to come back, but like, it just isn't set in stone, I guess, the way that some people maybe would think.
right. What do you think isn't changing in the space right now that needs to change?
So right now, I think that the incentives are kind of bad for like projects. So, we touched on a little bit, but right now, there's really no need to innovate. I mean, I hate to say that as like somebody that wants to be creative and like kind of trial out some different things or whatever, but there's no need to, because
You're
you
almost
just
adding unnecessary risk right now to be innovative, which like goes
exactly.
against all of my like principles as like a builder in the space. But like, why, if you can just, if it works, don't break it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's, that's, I don't think that's good necessarily for the space. It just is, I mean, it is what it is right now. It's what we live in, where we got sort of like this lottery machine, and you can come up and you can buy some lottery tickets from the newest NFT project. And if you get a rare, I mean, the EV is extremely high on a lot of those projects. If you don't totally whiff, I mean, even projects that perform terribly in the secondary market, Meebits being one that comes to mind, the EV was still really high. If you had sort of the pockets to play it. I mean, you could sell fucking Visitor for 400 ether. That covers, a whole shitload of rolls. So I think, but that applies to pretty much any new project that has any kind of like aesthetic look that you think that will universally be kind of liked. I mean, I think that probably, I don't know, I didn't follow them too closely. Like the pickles, they seem pretty simple to me. So I expect that those probably haven't done that well. I mean, I don't know, maybe they have.
I mean,
But
they shot up to from 0.01, they shot all the way up to 0.175 before reveal. Then they dipped all the way back down to 0.015 after the reveal, and now they're up to 0.02. It's been a roller coaster for anybody that's in that space right now.
yeah, I mean, so a lot of people don't understand how markets work. It's newer, especially newer people into this space, and they don't understand how little money it takes to really do that to a market. Like one guy can come in and push a project from zero point 0.1 ether to, push it up 500 or even 1,000% by himself. And at the same time, one guy with an enormous stash who just doesn't give a fuck about the floor can push it down 80 or 90%. And there's luckily most of the, I guess, whales and bigger players in the space, they have a pretty good understanding of how markets do work, and they don't tend to squish them that way. But you see the run-ups because it doesn't have to just be one person. It could be 50 people that are interested at buying, and it just is a very illiquid market. It can run extremely fast, and then it turns in, or can turn into sort of a slow bleed off forever.
Right. How do you feel about, though, like I'll say NFT influencers who do kind of, they might not buy up the floor, but they're like, they give that little nudge where they're like, hey, I'm gonna buy a couple on the floor, and 24 hours later the floor is 2x, 5x.
Yeah, I mean, again, it just is illiquid, shit markets. It's just
Right.
it's the same thing. So a lot of people with crypto Twitter traders, some of those guys that have like 100,000 followers, this was their playbook for years, and people just thought they knew how to trade, but actually it was just literally them just pumping and dumping the markets, because you focus 100,000 followers on some shitty illiquid coin, even on Binance, that's only doing $500,000 in volume a day. I mean, pushing that shit up 40 or 50% off one tweet
Off one tweet, yeah.
is feasible. And these guys, they feel kind of casually, and then they tweet about it with some, oh, it broke resistance bullshit, and like so I mean, there's and NFT influencers are basically discovering that power, or utilizing that sort of power. I think I've tried to stay away from that. I mean, I'm not perfect or whatever. I did with like Hash Mask. I was pretty excited about the project at the time. I thought it was kind of unique that they had done like the yield emitting tokens, because that was new. The reveal thing at the time was new. So I mean, I thought that it was kind of a cool project for that. And I never really I don't think I ever like publicly promoted it. But I did share some like big sale tweets, which may have influenced some people. Not really my
Anything
intention, but
influences you can't really
yeah.
hold a single tweet to something. Some things you can, but I'm more referring to the people that are like really
Oh,
like
yeah,
egregiously pumping their own bags kind of stuff.
yeah. I mean, I think I would be, if I was any of those kind of people, you got to be wary with that shit. Like even for me, I try not to ever come out and say anything like uh, absolute or whatever. Like I would never come out and say, "Oh, you need to sell ETH here because this is definitely going to turn around." Like,
Right.
or you need to.
Are you in stable right now?
I am largely in stables. Yeah,
How does that
I've
feel right now?
shitty. Oh man, so shitty. I I bought some of the dip at the high hundreds. I felt pretty good about like, okay, this feels pretty comfy. And then whenever it just looked weak as shit, I dumped in the low 1800s and it dropped to 1700. So I felt like, oh, good. I had a perfect read on this shit. I'm gonna get filled again. 1500s. This would be great. It would be nice. And then now then just rocketed up. And now I just it feels awful. It's just as bad as when you're holding it and it goes down. It's
Yeah.
that bad.
Except when you go to buy back, you have less, and it feels even twice as shitty.
Fuck yeah, it does. So I've tried not to FOMO back in yet, and I mean, I'm questioning my own thoughts on the market, questioning how mature it is, and taking into consideration some sharper people that I know who've been around for even longer than I have, who like, yeah, I mean, it's different this time, and I know that that's such a meme, but I don't know. I'm trying to get my best.
So you're saying that there's smarter people than you that are saying it's different this time, that like that was the bottom, it's up, like it's up from here.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I religiously will say like you have to make your own decisions. If you ever take somebody else's word and you do what they say, and then it goes against what they're saying, your conviction will be zero, and you'll end up fucking up anyways. Like if you listen to me saying, "Oh, I think it's going down," and you sell and it goes up $20, you're gonna be like, "Oh, fuck him," and you're FOMO back in, even if I'm right or wrong. You
Right.
have to. So that's why I think for me, it's more about like convincing myself if I believe that they're correct or not. So I still think that I'm probably right. Um, and I have been right for, over a month now at the longer time frame, but it still feels shitty like sitting out and watching it and worrying like, man, if this, oh man, like, so I think that if you're addicted to this market and if you're like just obsessed with it in the way that I am, it's going to be hard to ever look away and not feel sort of some regrets on this or that.
Yeah, I'm like 1 foot in stable, like, dipping my toe into stable, and that's even painful right now for me. So I can't even imagine what it feels like to be you.
Yeah, I'm in man, I'm in like the high 80s in stable. Like
Oh,
it's painful, but my average is still a little bit high. I've averaged out higher than what the price is. So I could still technically buy back more than I ever had. I just um for me also, I'm considering taxes and implications of what that'll look like in a year. And that's another thing that it sucks. You just trying to, get your head around all that stuff.
right. Yeah, it's way more complex than just buy, sell, profit, move
Yeah,
forward with.
I know. I wish that it was that simple, but no.
So I'm sorry to interrupt you about that. I just had to ask because that was something that was on my mind. We got to talk a little bit about the Ethereum market. I guess touching on the NFT market. How do you feel about it? Do you think we're in a bubble? Do you think, I mean, that's the discussion. Do you think like the relative hotness that we've seen around some of these projects like Art Blocks and like Bored Ape Yacht Club, do you think that's justified? What's your read on it all?
So I am, trying to wrap my head around that. Honestly, my expectation was that as the market performed poorly, that NFTs would get squeezed, and that really hasn't played out this month. I mean, I have been, because I've seen it before in 2018, for example, 2019, as more and more people leave the space, they lose their conviction, they lose their money, they let their real world friends who told them they were wrong finally get to them or whatever. Then the interest just dries up, the liquidity dries up, the undercutting wars begins. So that was sort of my expectation here, but what we've been seeing is like it's almost been acting independent. I don't know. I guess I would still say this. I hate this people who are like bullish NFTs to be like, oh, this fucking, but like I would expect that if we went into a year-long bear market, crypto-wide market, that NFTs in the long term would also get squeezed. But I think that projects that are important, and I would consider anything that's significant now, Art Blocks and Bored Apes, both of those would still be around through something like that, even if they did get squeezed a little bit. I think they're not one of the projects that I would consider that would go to zero.
Yeah, if we saw that squeeze, it would be a good time to pop into those projects if you're on the sidelines watching right now.
Yes, yeah, I think that's, I mean, because we saw it, Axie, CryptoPunks, really those projects would have maybe a $3,000 volume like in a week sometimes,
Right.
and shit was slow, and it really looked like they were dead, is from, I mean, they were objectively dead, and they came back from the dead, and they're doing millions of dollars a day in volume sometimes, and $1 million sales even for singular assets. So I expect that the upside on NFTs is tremendous, especially for the winners. But yeah, I think that it still is sort of related to the overall market. And the only one that I would say is maybe an exception would be maybe Top Shot, being that it's USD denominated. Maybe it has been removed far enough that it could trade outside of the scope of the crypto markets. But I think anything that's denominated in ETH is, it's counterintuitive. I think some people would think, oh, well, if ETH goes down by 50%, then this thing that was priced at 2 Ether is 50% off. So that's a great deal. But actually what tends to happen is you just get less market participants. You get people who are paper millionaires that say, oh shit, I need to take my profits now. And they try to squeeze what is really in a liquid market with not a lot of buyers. So it can push the floor considerably. But
yeah, that makes sense. What project are you looking at right now? Like what's like on your radar? I'm curious.
As a buyer?
As a buyer.
So so right now I'm still playing sort of the, I guess, bearish, more downside angle, and I have my eye on really autoglyphs is probably like the one that I want to scale back in big. I really, and I've said this I think a few times, and maybe I should be cautious about that, because if I make other people bullish on them, it's going to make me have to pay
I was about to say, like, be careful, because you're about to shill like either alpha here or your own bags, and people are gonna be like, oh, he's shilling his own bags. Like,
yeah, so I have 0 autoglyphs. For what it's worth, I sold one for 200,000 a couple weeks ago, and I really didn't like that sale, but I was just bearish ETH, and it's consequently bearish NFTs, and my hope is that I can use that to buy a couple autoglyphs in the future. Like that was like the goal of that trade. I think, as for any other projects, I'm really not buying much at the moment. I just haven't seen, I think like the highest EV plays are like new projects that have like a lot of attention and a lot of hype around them that haven't went up a tremendous amount already. And I've really just been trying to like experiment with some things behind closed doors, and I would like to launch a project. I don't know that I'll get to the finish line while people are still like spending money on anything.
Right.
But we'll see how that goes. So that's been really probably more my focus. I think that any project that is significant, especially I mean, there are a lot from this year that I wouldn't consider significant, but the ones that are, if they get squeezed in sort of a bear market, I probably will be a buyer in a bunch of them. I'll probably spread a little wider than I did in 2018. I didn't explore too much outside of CryptoKitties, and if I had just put 50 Ether into CryptoPunks, then it would have been far more upside than what I captured through other NFTs. So I think yeah, I'll play the more shotgun approach then. I think I have more I guess money to play around with this round, so I'll try to capture some of those in the next big upside event, hopefully.
Yeah, that's cool to see your thought process there. Really cool. And I almost shouldn't forget, you mentioned looking at starting another project possibly. You've done 2 projects. One is called Chainfaces and the other one is Squiggly.wtf. Both of which are like dope ass projects, like really cool. What was it like doing, because Chainfaces was your first one, correct?
Yeah.
What was it like diving into your first project? Like, because a lot of people are on the sidelines now. I want to do a project. Like, I don't know what it takes. Walk me through the whole process of doing your first one.
So it really, it was just like, I just was desperate to like push something out because I was like in love with the space and I was obsessed with it. And I just couldn't, I just had to like do something. So with Chainfaces, I had like this simple concept, which was kind of inspired by an equally, or well, even more simple. So there were 2 projects that came out in, I think they were both December of 2019. And one was, it was Math Token, which is just, it's literally just numbers and you would add them together and what they added to would be the next NFT that you get. And it was just a number. It was like really simple. And there was like a dividends method. So if you use somebody else's number, then the dividend from that number.
Oh.
So it was like, but it was like really cheap. I think they were like 0.02 Ether, like this, because there was no interest in NFTs at the time. So that was
Right.
like, nobody was even spending, like Chainfaces even were $1 each. Like that was like, so that was like, and at the time when it made 100 Ether, that was a significant amount of Ether for a project to make. Now it's jack shit, but I got inspired by those simple projects. It was math and then it was word, where you could like concatenate words together and concatenate letters together, and it had that same sort of dividend model that math had used. So then I got inspired to do a simple project, which was Chainfaces. And we were already talking behind the scenes about like the on-chain movement, and that was like kind of what inspired like the on-chain design of it, that the on-chain ASCII and the metadata being on chain with like the background color and the text color. And it was really just like for me to like launch something. I tried to put some thought into one of the things that I'd always liked about NFTs, or what I could appreciate about NFTs, is if I could look at them and immediately tell if they were good or not just by the visuals. I didn't actually need to dig into the properties on OpenSea to see if they were good or not. It's like
Right.
the CryptoPunk, you see an an 8, then oh shit, that's rare, that's good.
Right.
Like, so with Chainfaces, I did it by scaling depending on what the golf score was, which is like an aggregate score of how rare each of the face pieces were. The text would scale from black to teal, and then the background color was dependent on the bear percentage, and it would scale from I guess white to like a dark brown. So like a dark brown would be super rare bear percentage, and a teal would be a super low and therefore good and rare golf score.
And
So that
that's
was
all
like,
just based off the hash.
yeah, it was based off the face that was generated. So
Okay.
it tied in directly to that. And I think that maybe it's a little still too simplified. I think people like to have like this, more resolution. So, CryptoPunks resolution, not necessarily pixels, but in terms of design resolution, Bored Apes, I don't know the market very well, but I assume that there are traits that stand out to people that are more valuable just because they know, they recognize it as being rare, but also the aesthetic of it is good.
Right.
And yeah, with Chainfaces, it was just really about like in a project and like trying to do something in the space. I think that Squiggly was a lot better of a project, but again, it launched to a small community of maybe like 300, which was still more than enough demand for it to instantly sell out as fast as it could, kind of thing.
Right.
But I wish that I had something ready for like that's been going on, like, because I would like to. I mean, it's just insane how many people are in this space now, and how how many people are excited about it. And I think it would just be cool to bring something new to the table, which I feel pretty confident that I could do, because nobody. I feel like the majority of projects coming out right now are just kind of the same thing, or they're generative, but they're like okay, we've seen that. Like, let's see somebody tie it into some DeFi, or let's see some fucking, I don't know, something cool.
Yeah, that's not like copy paste, just change the art kind of stuff.
exactly. Yeah. And I mean, I get that that's like the format that people see that works. And there's not a lot of, from what I can tell, I haven't seen a lot of really like strong coders that are launching NFT projects. I
Now,
feel
did
like,
you, for your projects, did you code them all yourself or did you
yeah,
have help?
no, I did them all solo. Which is for better or worse. Like Chainfaces had some bugs in the contract that I think are kind of part of the history now. But and and I'm not a very good like front end developer, so none of the websites are nice and good looking, which you need, I think, to like appeal to maybe the more casual person. But
Right.
um, yeah, I don't know. I I've actually developed probably 3 or 4 other projects in the background and just have like thrown them in the trash because I can't bring myself to like launch something that I personally don't think is like kind of neat in some aspect, even if it's simple. Like I don't know. I just want it to have something that makes it distinct.
Special or stands out, or you can say, hey, this is different.
Yeah, exactly. Whether people hate it or think it's ugly, I think I've heard people say like I've heard that about like, oh, Chainface is too simple, it's stupid or whatever. But like, yeah, but at least it's different,
Yeah, exactly. I know, I totally get it, man. Totally get it. And because I know somebody's gonna DM me after listening to this, be like, why didn't you ask? Like, learning Solidity, what was that like for you? Did you go do the zombie course? Does it, you just watch YouTube videos? Like, I'm curious myself, as well as knowing others will be curious.
Yeah, I think so. I did do the zombie tutorial. And to be honest, it felt like I kind of knew what I was doing, and then whenever I tried to apply it, I had no fucking clue what I was doing.
Yeah.
So
Like Stack Overflow, need to figure this out. Like, I read it, I know what I'm doing, but I don't know anything.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I just was fucking lost. And really the way that I kind of learned was from reading contracts that were on mainnet and trying to just understand like what the functions did. So, if you go to, let's just say, like the mint function on Etherscan, and is a write function, and you can see, okay, it needs a seed, and then it's got this amount where you put the amount of ether that you're paying. Then you can go into the contract, you can look at the mint function and see what the seed does. So I had to like dissect them through the write and read functions, which you could publicly see
Right. Just
and
reverse
interact with.
engineering almost.
Exactly. And I built it up that way. And it was, for a while, it took me, doing that and sort of like, okay, this is an idea that I have, and this contract does similar to that. So I'll kind of borrow that and I'll change it to do what I want to do. I mean, now I don't really have to do that, but that was kind of how it started for me, is really just reverse engineering and reusing pieces that I knew I needed. I mean, there's a lot of standard stuff in an ERC 721 contract that's really like boilerplate shit that you can get the whole library from like Open Zeppelin. So
Right.
an NFT contract can literally be, if it's simple, like some of the shit that's launching now, the part that is custom is probably like fucking 50 lines or something, if even that. I mean, so they can be really simple if you choose to go that route. The stuff that I've written is more customized and stuff, so it's not quite that simple, but I still do, obviously borrow the 721 template stuff.
Right. Makes sense. And now, is NFT 42 doing anything like super innovative in your eyes right now, or is that like, you can't tell me?
So yeah, I don't know how much information I can really share about Nameless and the direction we're going there. I mean, all I can say is that it's looking a little bit less like maybe a minting platform than what it was. It's going to be different than these other ones. We've sort of decided that.
By other ones, you mean like
Rarible, OpenSea.
Gotcha.
I mean, but yeah, the only edge that we really had was sort of this on-chain sort of mantra that we helped pioneer or whatever. And some people care about that, some people don't. But we're taking sort of a different direction, and we're trying to differentiate it in a way that it won't feel like the other minting platforms. Hopefully, by the time we get it launched and
Gotcha.
pushed out. So we've delayed on that a few times as we keep sort of like, we'll launch something. We did NFT boxes, and then we did, Gary Vee's project. We did the Joy Toy, and all of those are like different. Like we haven't been able to really reuse much. To just, oh, this was our idea. This is the feedback we got from that. Okay, let's do this now. Okay, this is that feedback, and it's been this iterative process to where we're just trying to figure out, rather than just push out a minter that allows people to make NFTs. We're like really trying to figure out, how do we make NFTs like good, that people actually will be like, this has some longevity. We want probably to be sort of the ones that even other marketplaces are like, oh shit, we're going to use their solution because it's better than ours, and we don't need to build our own anymore.
Right, right. How does it feel like watching like other platforms and like other, I don't know if collective's the right name, but like companies like Manifold pop up, and like obviously you guys are going to be competing. There's other ones that are slowly popping up, that I've seen on Twitter that obviously don't have as big of a knowledge of, the community doesn't know about them yet. Like, how do you think you're going to fare as more and more minting platforms and NFT companies pop up?
We're said, we'll just have to keep pushing. Like we have definitely not won anything for sure. I think that we have probably maybe one of the biggest presences, as far as like Jim and myself. We're not the most famous people in the NFT space. I'd say probably Pranked is probably most famous like native NFT guy, but we're at least in the upper, whatever level of that or whatever.
Right.
Most people tend to know who we are. So I think we've done a shitload of networking. We know pretty much all the top artists. We know all the, well, top by volume artists, I guess that's shit. Nifty Gateway has done a tremendous job on like getting some people in the real world. One day I'll figure out the right verbiage for that. They've done.
I've heard normies, real world people.
Yeah, I don't really know what the right naming is, but yeah, I think for us, I would say that it is a big edge though for us, that we do have sort of NFT expertise that a lot of people, if they're coming in and they're new to the space, if they're pretending they don't have it, it's just, you can't come in here for fucking 2 months and be like, I know everything there is to know about NFTs. I'm going to build the best shit. Like, your engineers could be better. Maybe your funding is better. Maybe your design is better, but like, we do have at least that on our side. And the other piece I think is, you alluded to community being important in network. And I think that we're winning the race in that, maybe not winning, but we're one of the front runners in at least that category. So we have some catching up to do. We definitely need to push out a good product to like get people excited about it. But we feel pretty confident that we can get there, even with our sort of longer term, slower turtle approach or whatever.
Right. Yeah. The turtle. I even tweeted that last night. I was like, I posted something like late night NFT thoughts, and I was like, look, like, there's so much time. Like, people are rushing stuff out, and there's like years ahead of us. You don't need to just throw it out there and be like, all right, this is it. And like, oh crap, we got it wrong. Like, take your time, think it through, like do it right the first time, kind of mentality.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I think that's like, people see the money, and this happened in 2018 as well. And in 2017, people rushed out fast ass white papers, and they just raised money off the backs of it. And then, after a few years of like tough market times, people quit giving a shit, and they basically just got to like soft exit scam those funds. And like, we're and so now I think people, they really fast and they try to raise some money on it, and then whether they succeed or not, or whether they give a shit in 6 months, especially if things get a little tough. Like, we're NFT 42 is not going to fold in 6 months if things get tough. Like, we don't give a shit if I mean, it would suck if ETH goes down to $500 or something, but like, we're not going to be out of business. We're not going to be like, oh, fuck, our money grab time is over. Like, we'll just keep building and we'll still be
Right.
around whenever times are good again. So, I think we have some advantages from that. But
Yeah,
yeah.
we almost need that though. Like, and I'm sure I'm gonna get crucified for saying this, but a downturn in the market could almost be good for, I guess, technological development. Because right now we're all like, oh, we're making money, like things are happening, there's money to be made. And I don't see like there is some, but like I don't see people just head down, like we're working, like screw the price, like we're doesn't matter if we're down or up, like we're just focused on building right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of distractions in this space. I mean, and that's, I mean, it's great for people to make money. Don't get me wrong. I think, and one of the reasons that I think that like the apes community is going to be still around in a few years is because, honestly, because a bunch of them made a bunch of money. Like that's actually great, because those are the people who have the money to sort of play around and learn and become full timers and become, sort of the next foundation of this whole thing. Like NFTs, right now it feels like 2021 is like, oh, these are noobs or whatever, but like this shit is going to be around for fucking ever. So in the grand scheme of things, this is really early, like,
Right.
so I still think that, maybe it's 5 years or 10 years from now that people look back and think, damn, he's been around since 2021. Like, what a fucking legend. Like,
I
maybe all
can't wait
the,
for that.
yeah, maybe all the dinosaurs in 2017 have lost, become bitter old fuckers or whatever. But like,
Oh man. Well, Nate, we've been going on it for about an hour now. I usually like to wrap up these like kind of like community spotlight interview-ish talks with 5 questions, which I call the fungible 5, just because I like to make shit with the same letter. Um, I'll ask you the 5 questions and hopefully we get some good alpha from you in these. Number 1, what is your favorite project in the space recently?
my favorite project in the space recently. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with art blocks. I don't know if that counts as recently, but I think that it is just a tremendously like important project. I think it's cool as shit that like Snowfro's like OG collector, like everybody loves him, and like I think it's cool that that's like his project. And I just think while there's a lot of hype around it, and some of the projects I feel like maybe are a little overvalued due to liquidity issues and due to the
Like
ease.
what?
Well, I mean, I think, well, relative inside of the art blocks, though, I think that
Okay.
some of the projects are pumped up a little bit, because of liquidity issues. But I just think that it's just such a really important project. Like, you can come as a creator, you can launch your own project. Like, I think that it's a little inflated because it doesn't seem super sustainable. But Eric, he's been doing like a good job of like trying to like say, okay, these are the curated ones, these are like the free for all ones, these are the ones that we're like really. So he's figuring it out and doing a really good job with that. I think that it's probably one of the most, at least on ETH, more important projects. I love Top Shot too a lot, actually. I know that won't be a popular answer, but I think in terms of how many new eyes they brought to the space, it really VFriends did it as well, which I think that that is super important rather than just having the same like degens like pass the ball back and forth and shit.
Yeah, no, I totally get that.
That's not what I would do. Like if I launched a project, it would appeal to the fucking degens and like people who are deep in this space. I wouldn't be that person that brought in. So it's maybe a little ironic that I highlight them. But yeah, I just think that that's really important.
All right. Well, I'm happy to hear that, but at the same time, sad as somebody who wants to buy a ringer right now. That was painful to
Uh,
hear that word come out of your
yeah,
mouth.
I love I think ringers are great. I love Fidenza, however you pronounce it. I think that those are so fucking cool looking, and I don't know why I didn't buy them up. I just wasn't in buyer's mode. Like if you're
Yeah.
bearish ETH, it's hard to buy something because you just, even if you're right on the ETH price, or if you're right that it goes in ETH terms, if ETH is going down, then, so it was kind of a tough, and then that is, that is like a super hot market, which I think that may be one of the one that's a little inflated now as well. So, yeah, I mean, I love the projects. I think that they'll be around forever. So, that's worth something, but short
Yeah.
term.
Yeah, totally get it. Number 2, what is the last item you added to your wallet? You might have to look it up, or maybe off the top of your head.
The last item that I purchased would have been, so I have kind of a public wallet that I have with like a team where we buy like random junk. So it's hard to say what the last thing that we bought there. I didn't personally pull the trigger on it, but I had some money and something that bought something, let's say. The last thing that I like personally bought, it's probably been, so I got my wallet here. The last big thing that I purchased was the VFriend, the Tether
VFriend? Oh
VFriend.
wow, so you've been like just like
I've
really
been
chilling for a while now.
I've been pretty dormant. I tried to bid on that class 7 autoglyph at the Sotheby's one. But it was like $50,000 in fees on a $150,000
Yeah, it's
bid. And I was like,
ridiculous. Like, and
what
then
the
you're like, why are we paying these fees? Why can't it be like, 2% like OpenSea?
it's outrageous. It shows you how like good we have it, kind of like,
Really?
why $50,000 handling fee? Are you fucking kidding me? Like, so but that was really, yeah, it's like I said, it's hard if you're, I think that I'll need to be sort of reconvinced that the good times are going to resume. Although I have been starting to think like be at least participating in the NFT action, because it has been hot. Like there's a lot of action going on there, regardless of what ETH is doing. So missing
Yeah.
some opportunity, but
Oh, hopefully you get back in and bin something soon so I can see you tweet, and then hopefully it's positive and not like like
yeah, I know. I've been fucking salty like OG. Like I don't know. I'll yeah, I don't know. It's not a good, you don't want to stay like that for too long, I think. But
yeah.
still I'm just waiting for that right one. I think I'll know when there's a winner. I'll be ready.
Okay, well, I'm gonna watch your wallet then if that's the case. Number 3, who is a must follow on Twitter for the NFT space right now? Maybe one that like, obviously we've talked a lot about Pranksy, but like maybe one that you don't think gets enough love right now.
Oh, let's see, man. I've been trying to compile a list actually, and I might just have to share that, or when I tweet that, I might just have to do it then. I think
Okay.
because, and actually it was really kind of focused on this, people who are in maybe, let's say, the 1,000 to like 5,000 follower range, that I feel like are tweeting a lot of good things and are saying a lot of good things, and like, so I want to like tag them and highlight them. I don't want to highlight one of them maybe specifically here. I mean, there's a lot of good like up and coming talent. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but people I think who seem to understand the space really well, and are under highlighted for sure.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. I'll respect that answer. Number 4, biggest lesson you learned in NFT space or wish you knew when you started.
Let's see. That is such a good question. Like I mean, I've learned so many things from this space, and it's hard to condense it all the way down. So I'll try, I guess. I would say that, oh man, there's just so many things. Fuck.
You could rattle like 1 or 2 off, or like just like, hey,
okay,
this
yeah.
is
Okay, yeah. I mean, when things are hot, I will say that when a project is hot, things can explode a lot more than you would ever expect them to. Like I remember when punks were, sub zero point 0.5 ether. I remember them going to 2 ether and thinking like, holy shit, this is insane. This is done. Like I dumped all of them, and then they went down, and then they rocketed back to like 5 ether, and I thought this is not sustainable. And then they went to 20. So it's very, very hard to predict the upside of an NFT. You
Right.
really have to measure like the room temperature, and you know, generally, I mean, they work like other markets. You get to this sort of euphoric stage where people just assume that they will just go up forever, and that just is not true. I mean, you get to a point where people no longer are listing at all, and that's really affecting sort of how thin the market is. And then you have some late FOMOers that push the price up, 100% or 200%, maybe accidentally, or because there's just no liquidity, and FOMO is taking the best of them. So, yeah, I mean, I would say that the upside is it's impossible to predict. I guess that maybe that's like not very good alpha, but that is kind of the thing. It's really hard to sort of. It's very easy to underestimate what the upside potential of a project is. I remember thinking zombies at 50 ether was like, wow, this is fucking insane. They're never going higher than that. Like, and then they're like 500 ether, and and I sold one at the 32 range.
Ooh.
An idiot, but they, it's. I think that like AAA tier NFTs, they can just be tremendously valuable, and that's why I'm really kind of bullish on autoglyphs. I think they are that elite tier, and yes, they're extremely expensive. Even the cheapest ones now are extremely expensive. But I think that they have like just that sort of like art appeal, aesthetic or whatever, that
Right.
could be like high end art, like $1 million glyphs or something. I mean, I hate to throw that number out. It sounds insane, but if it gets there, I won't be insane. I won't be too surprised.
Right. Makes sense.
But yeah,
Oh, go ahead. Sorry about that.
yeah. I mean, I think it just, I guess if I condense it down, like the thing that I've learned is just that it's extremely unpredictable. Like the volatility. It just the best way to sort of kind of get a grasp around it is try to understand sort of the psychology of whatever, like the crowd psychology behind it, like um, in terms of like price estimations or whatever.
Right.
Oh, you know what? No, I got another good. This is actually fucking really good, and I wish I thought of this. One of the one of the most important things I think that happened for me whenever, especially when times got really tough, is I had like a group of friends that loved NFTs that I stayed in touch with, and I talked to, and I still talk to pretty much daily. And I just think because your real world network probably still doesn't understand NFTs and doesn't get NFTs, and if shit like gets tough, you're probably going to give up. So it's good to have like form that basis and have like those friends who like understand and who are going to be here through this shit suffering with you if you do
Right.
having to suffer.
Yeah. No, that's probably one of the best pieces of advice I've heard in the last 2 months. Like, especially with like a downturn in the market, like being able to just talk to somebody who's one, either been through it, or two, going through the same shit and can relate to it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Number 5 was, when did you get into the space and how? We already answered that. I think that's a horrible question now that I'm looking at it.
Seems like a weird closer question.
Yeah, I know. I don't know why I wrote that down. And like, I've done that for like the last 2 interviews, and I'm like looking at them, I'm like, you dumbass. Like, what? Why? Who closes an interview with like, how did you get in this? Like, it's usually the first question you should ask. Yeah, I have to rethink that. That's a horrible question. Uh, I guess my final question for you then would just kind of be like, as somebody who's been around for 4 years, you're obviously very attuned to what the market's doing. Um, where do you think NFTs are going to be in like 3 to 5 years? And what does that look like? Not only because I know ticketing is such an easy, like low hanging fruit to address, but where do you think like, we see it as like title insurance, or do we see it as like a way to like buy cars? I'm just curious where your mind goes when you think that in that term.
Yeah, I think I don't know if 3 to 5 years is short enough. I expect a lot of like the low hanging fruit to get picked in the next 3 to 5 years. I don't know if like car titles or like I don't know if or car notes or like your deed to your house will be on that. I expect probably not. That's probably still maybe a few more years out. But
Agreed.
I think within 3 to 5 years, we we're further now than I expected we would be. I did an interview with Andrew on Zima Red in like March, I think, and I talked about then how I thought we were about where maybe Bitcoin was at the end of 2017 in terms of like people that know what NFTs are. Like my neighbors know what NFTs are now. They know like what I do and shit, and they know what it means, kind of thing, and they've heard of Beeple. And so I think that we're getting some mainstream appeal. I expect that in 3 to 5 years, it will be everybody in the world knows what NFTs are. Um, in the same way now, every person in the world knows what Bitcoin is.
Right.
There's still, I don't know. Like I said, I expect low hanging fruit to get picked. I expect some real world use cases to emerge. Some real like big tech winners to start emerging, and it's seen it a little bit with like Dapper Labs, and they're doing some enormous raises. They're big dog company. OpenSea is large. Hopefully we in NFT 42 can be like one of those big dog companies in 5 years that people in the real world know what it is or whatever. So yeah, I mean, I expect a lot of maturity in the next few years. It'll still be like a fun space, and there'll probably be like these crazy like shit hot potato projects that pop up from time to
Right.
time. But I think that will phase out a little more. People are learning right now, learning how markets work, and they're dabbling in these sort of these up only environments. Eventually, these developers, especially the anonymous ones, if they come in and they just extract and they don't recycle, they will eventually drain sort of that loose money.
Right.
So people will have to be more focused on maybe groundbreaking projects.
Yeah, that makes total sense. That's a good take on it. A lot of people that I've asked that question to have given me some like pure hopium, and I think that's a very realistic take on what it'll look like. Well, dude, thank you so much for hopping on and giving me 70 or 80 minutes of your time. I know you are a super busy guy, and it was just awesome to get to know more about you, what your journeys look like, and your thought process on NFTs and crypto as a whole. So hopefully we'll get you back on another show in the future to review some of your takes and see what you're up to in like a year. And certainly I'll stay in touch with you along that journey.
Cool. Yeah. And thanks for having me on. It was fun.
Awesome. Everybody, thank you for listening today. This was NateAlex. Give him a follow on Twitter. I believe your Twitter is just at NateAlex, correct?
NateAlex NFT.
NFT. There you go. Until next time, I will see you then.